Hi and welcome to another episode here of The Tracker on Citi TV. If you are catching us at 1 p.m. this time, it's not a mistake. There's been a little switch up of the time in the show, so this is what it will be like from now onwards, 1 to 2 p.m., and that's what exactly is going to happen. On the show today, there's a lot going on. The Birmingham Games is happening, Commonwealth 2022. That's what's going on. We'll be getting some updates. It's hockey going on. It's track and field to come a little later. There's also boxing happening. So a lot to tell you on the show. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, I'll introduce my guest and then we'll expand the conversation. Welcome back to The Tracker here on Citi TV. Like I said, it's Birmingham 2022, the Commonwealth Games ongoing, and I have my good friend here, Achu Tamaklo, to help me to dissect the conversation. Achu, it's always good to have you on The Tracker.
Always a pleasure, Ben.
Nice one having you. Let's get into the thick of things because things have gotten very murky really quickly for Ghana. In boxing, it's 3 down. I believe 6 more to go. But one of the down ones is crucial. Shakur Samed. For those who don't know, he's younger brother of Baster Samed. Yeah. He has tested positive for a banned substance, furosemide. I was shocked when I heard about the substance involved. But the word is that he's been suspended. He's the first athlete to be suspended at the game so far. I'm not sure what you made of it when you initially heard it, like a Ghanaian athlete suspended for furosemide. The word also is that he didn't even make it to his weigh-in at all. Yeah. And so in the beginning, they put out the word that he failed to make weight, and so he was suspended because of that. And then we eventually heard that he had actually tested positive for a banned substance.
Who gets suspended for failing to make a weight?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I was disappointed. I was disappointed that something like that had to happen, because if you look, so furosemide, I did a little bit of digging, and when the substance is ingested into your bloodstream, be it from eating or something, a substance you drank or whatever it is, once it gets introduced into your bloodstream, it can be active for up to 8 hours before it gets dissolved. And the simple explanation for that, or implication or interpretation from that, is that the substance was taken in Birmingham, because the athletes had been in Birmingham for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, they had already been there extensively, so especially the boxing team.
Exactly. Yep. So it could not have been taken while he was in Ghana. So, and again, the next question that comes to mind is, how did we not uncover this to withdraw the athletes before this embarrassment? Right?
I even think the bigger question should be, did the athlete take this on his own, or was this under supervision?
No, I'm not interested in that, because we've had all sort of, I mean, you remember Kolo-Toure?
Yep.
When he feels
he says he was taking his wife's medicine.
His pregnant wife's medicine. And he had no idea it had a banned substance in there. So it could very well be incidental. It could be an accident that a medication he was on, some painkillers was taking, or it could be anything. But my issue is, if our tests are frequent, especially before a bout, I think maximum between 16 and 10 hours before a bout, we should have a test and have an idea.
As you mean like in-house?
In-house,
within
yes.
So we have our
the
doctor,
Olympic Committee, the Amateur Boxing Federation. Yes, you do your own test to ensure that the athlete you are sending out there to go and fight, to go and run, to go and jump, whatever discipline they are going to participate in, is not in the position or is not susceptible or vulnerable to any of these shocks. Because I'll be more comfortable if we withdraw the athletes, and then later we get to understand that, okay, it was because he failed the test. At least we would have taken charge of the narrative, and it would have prevented or avoided the global humiliation. Because
you withdraw him yourself.
Yes,
it doesn't become.
The worst that you could suffer is a sanction that would not come with an embarrassment. But between Saturday and this morning, it is the biggest story coming out of Birmingham. It has overshadowed the fact that on the opening day, there were 16 gold medals that were awarded. There were even more on Saturday.
In fact,
yesterday.
His own colleague has qualified for the quarterfinals, but nobody's talking about
it. So for me, I think that on that scale, we could have prevented the embarrassment. And that's a question that the Olympic Committee, the Amateur Boxing Federation only they can answer, the frequency of their test. And
talking about answers, the president of the federation had some very interesting things to say about it. Almost spoke about it like it's the media trying to bring some bad blood or a bad dark cloud to cover their campaign. Let's just listen to him. We'll come back in studio. We'll just dissect that a bit. So let's get to Birmingham. Let's listen to Benjamin Korte. He is the president of the Ghana Amateur Boxing Federation. And then we'll come back and try to make some sense of his submission.
One of my athletes, the boxer, Sheku Sameh. In fact, we came here as a team, and this is part of the game. The guy is, will I say, he doesn't know what he has done, right? As we are here, we are managing the situation. I didn't want the situation where the rest of the boxers will be affected. You get it? So what we are doing is to side them in order for them to prepare ahead of what we are prepared to be able to achieve. And that is exactly what we are doing now. So at the moment, we are psyching him up, and we believe that Ghanaians will be happy to see us coming back.
President of the Ghana Amateur Boxing Federation, Benjamin Korte. Mr. President, the first thing I want to just tell you is that, look, he says, I want to note that first statement he made. He says, there's been a lot of noise in the media about one of my athletes who's been suspended. Come on. Like, come on. Really? If your athlete has been suspended for testing positive for a banned substance, what we are doing is reporting it. I don't even think anybody's gone and run opinion-based commentary on the matter. So I think description is unfortunate.
I think he should just check the Commonwealth Games websites.
Maybe that would do himself.
He needs to look. There is no way Ghanaians are going to be happy about this, no matter how you manage this. The only management there is to be done is what's left of Ghana's or the Black Bombers team that you've taken out there to stay ahead of the game. Run your own test frequently. Minimum 10 hours before any bouts, 10 hours before any athlete goes out there to compete, so that in case they took any substance a second before you run the test, at least you have a 10-hour window within which the substance is going to be active. You can find out before it gets to the point where someone else from the anti-doping agency or the Commonwealth Games Committee has to come in and then run the test. That becomes a whole scandal on its own. And I'm disappointed here. And I'm not saying someone didn't do their job, but I'm disappointed here because this is a product of what pertains in Ghana. We don't have a culture of checking doping.
Nope.
In the Ghana Premier League, we don't.
Nope.
In our national teams, we don't. In the Women's League, we don't. In the Division 1 League, we don't.
Doping is almost looked
in the
at
national
like
teams,
an attack.
Yes.
It's like you are questioning my integrity.
No, we don't. We don't have a culture of even checking the substances our players. For example, who checks the constitution of the drugs or the composition of the painkillers our footballers take when they are recovering from injuries? These natural remedies that our footballers take, and there are a lot of them, right? And our reliance on these herbs and stuff means that we are susceptible to these. We will take in a lot of substances. Yeah, we'll take in a lot of substances that we do not have a full comprehension or appreciation of its impact, whether or not they are legitimate, for the want of a better word, within the context of the sports or the discipline that you participate in.
True.
Right? And the restrictions, the substances that are permissible, they are constantly being reviewed.
True.
They are constantly
literally almost
reviewed.
every month.
And here's the thing. There are designer steroids, corticosteroids and the likes that athletes will take in
to boost performance.
Yes. And there are designer steroids that will hide other steroids that you've taken.
Crazy world.
Right. And for all you know, Shaku is completely oblivious to what furosemide even is. Right. And let me talk about something that we are all not comfortable, especially on platforms like this. We know where some of these boxers come from. We know where some of these athletes come from. There are certain substances that within those cultural contexts is a way of life.
Very acceptable within where he comes from.
Yes, and everyone listening to me knows exactly what I'm talking about. There are certain communities, there are certain slums, there are certain towns where there are specific or peculiar drinks that people will take in after meals. There are even, we know exactly the situation that we're talking about, and our boxers and our footballers and our athletes all over the country and where they are coming from. So when you're managing these athletes, the athletes may not be fully aware of the situation that they are in, and the danger that their lifestyle poses to them. When you're managing these athletes, you have that education. I'm not talking about certificates or book education, but you have the education of that industry, what is permissible and what's not, to be able to protect the athletes and protect the state investment into that athlete. Now, and when you talk about all of these athletes, you have families looking up to them. Look, very few of them are from well-to-do families.
True.
And so when they plane to Birmingham, the entire family are expecting that is the watershed moment in their life. They are expecting that is a career-changing move that they have made.
True.
Basti Samir, all of these boxers who have gone to the Olympic Games and have excelled, whatever gains that they made, ensure that they were able to take care of 5 or 6 dependencies in their lives. So when we go to the Commonwealth Games, I always tell people, I'm not interested in how many medals we're winning. I'm interested in how many athletes position themselves to change their lives. Because
that's very, very pronounced.
Take, for example, the typical boy from Bukum who has that maximum education being JSS.
Yeah.
What are the career opportunities or the job opportunities available to that kid? So for that kid, it's all eggs in one basket as far as sports is concerned. It's a make it or make it. If they don't, they are coming back to a life of hopelessness. And so when these things happen, I speak from a position of heartbreak, more emotions than anything else. And people need to understand what exactly is at stake here. There is no way that Shakur Samir is going to participate in any global competition again. From my reading of it, look, other athletes, you can talk about Tyson Gay and all of those other guys who may have had a run-in with those substances and had a comeback, but you're not Tyson Gay. You're not Justin Gatlin.
You're literally at the amateur level.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Do we honestly believe that Shakur is going to get a UK visa to go and participate in the Commonwealth Games again? Do we honestly believe that with this hanging over his neck, Shakur can get into the US for a bout?
Those
are the markets.
And this is a stain.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Because
these things will follow you.
Those are the markets. Look, no matter what happens, we've seen the Canelo Alvarez Gennady Golovkin banter. At the heart of it will always be the questions about who was a drug cheat. And no matter what you do to come back, it will take something away from your credibility.
Yeah.
And so we need to approach some of these conversations and even our handling of athletes in our country with that mindset that, look, it is everything at stake. We cannot afford to make mistakes. What is happening to Shakur? It could have been the next football star on the cusp of a medical.
Yep.
And
then
imagine Felix Afinajan.
Yep.
You see the way his whole family's life is on the cusp of changing? Kudus Mohammed, Thomas Partey.
Yep. Imagine you're making a big move like that and then you feel a medical because of a banned substance.
So, look, we can decide to point fingers at the Olympic Committee or at the Amateur Boxing Federation, but this is an opportunity for us, learn from it, and have a cultural reset. Not just for boxing, but for all of our athletes who we send. Because, Ben, you know this, I know this. You, the listener or the viewer, knows that every single sports individual or athlete who leaves the shores of Ghana has an entire generation looking up to them, including those unborn.
True. Lovely stuff there. Let's move on to some positive news. Abdul Wahid Omar. He won a bronze medal, I believe, at the Glasgow Games. He is through to the quarterfinals. So there you have it there. Abdul Wahid Omar won a medal in the Glasgow Games. It looks like he likes Great Britain generally. He didn't do too well in the last Commonwealth Games, I believe, but in the Australia Games, yes, I think it was Australia. He's come back this time around. He's looking to make it into the medal zone. If he wins his next bout, obviously he's through to the semi. So light middleweight, you have him there, 60 to 63 kg, Abdul Wahid Omar. So congratulations to him there. And then we also have Joseph Kome and Jesse Latte. They will be fighting a little later today. So you have Jesse Latte in your shots there. Jesse Latte, I believe, is also a medalist from one of our past games. And then you also have Joseph Kome there. So we'll be getting to... So that's Joseph Kome, actually. Yeah. Jesse Latte is also in the mix for a fight later on today. So those are the ones. Actually, just quick thoughts on the guys who are yet to fight. So Wahid Omar getting through to the quarters. I'm sure this will be unpopular. I was one of those who was not too happy about him getting taken, because I felt like people like him had run their race. I mean, he's won a medal before. He went to the Australia Games, didn't do too well. Went to the last Olympics, didn't do too well. I felt that there were younger guys who were hungrier for an opportunity. He's proved me wrong. I'm happy for him through to the quarters. Jesse Latte also looking to probably make some history for himself a little later on. Just snap thoughts on that.
But you know why we'll keep taking guys like
Wahid Umar?
There is no conveyor belt. There is zero investment into producing the next boxing talent.
They just go and pick from the gyms around.
Exactly. Because what have we done since 2018? What have we done since 2019? The National Boxing League resumed how long ago? I chased that story until I got tired. I was surprised when they found the money I was surprised when they eventually found the money
to put it together
and then resume it. Yeah. Initially, the excuse was that, it was because of COVID. We've put it on hold. But COVID ended. Or COVID, the force of COVID on sport receded.
Yeah.
People moved on. Federations moved on. But the reality set in, and it was a matter of money. All I'm just saying is that if we put a little more into this, because I feel for someone like Joseph Kony and the family that he's coming from, after this, he has to turn pro. Wahid has to turn pro. Yeah. I want to see Shakur Samet even turn pro. Look,
I mean, how long can you be an amateur boxer?
You went through his profile.
Yeah.
He was at the games in 2014. 8 years down the line, you're still showing up at the Commonwealth
almost
Games.
A decade.
Yes. So, look, we need to get to the point where the states will invest in you to a point, and then we withdraw the state investment. You go pro on your own. Let those opportunities go to other boxers, right? The next generation of boxers, so that the state resources go around, affect a few more lives.
You enjoy your
give that exposure.
Move on. Somebody else gets to enjoy it.
Make it a bit more. Look, if I were a sports minister, after 2 Commonwealth Games, you would not go again. Yeah. But we're unable to make those bold decisions because we're not training anybody else. We're not making any other. If you go to the gyms that are producing these boxers, you'd realize that those trainers are working miracles.
They really are.
How many of those trainers are even certified? How many of them are even certified? So, I mean, and I like to say these things.
A lot of them literally underlearn a seasoned trainer.
I like to say these things around this time, not to take the spotlight away from what is going on, but because it is the only time that people will listen and pay attention to the reality of sports in this country. That, look, I, for one, cannot explain. If I'm a president and you walk up to me and I understand the dynamics that go into the Commonwealth Games, the World Athletics and all of these games, and you tell me that there's a boxer that we're taking this year. 8 years ago, we took him to the Commonwealth Games. The subsequent games, we've been taking them to. The question I'm going to ask you is, hang on a minute, what has been the development plan?
Yeah.
Not just his track record. What has been the development plan
for
to
these
ensure?
boxers?
Because after maximum 3 years after your first appearance at the Commonwealth Games, you need to be getting ready to turn pro.
Yeah. There must be an end game to it.
There has to be an end game.
I like that you're actually highlighting this now. Because guess what? Suleiman Atete, for instance, he's been going for he's old. Like, look, if we are being honest, he should have gone pro by now a long time ago, or left the boxing to the younger ones to do. I'll give it a Samuel Techi. Samuel Techi had to get involved in a tussle with his management and then the amateur federation over whether he should turn pro or whether he should go to Birmingham. Eventually, he had a falling out of some sorts with the amateur federation because he decided that turning pro was a more plausible decision for his life than going back to the Commonwealth. What if he went and lost in the first round? That's just a stain on your reputation.
Yes, but at least when you're a pro, there may be other opportunities. Yeah. And look, we have nothing against the boxers. We all wish them well. And sometimes I understand them and then the trainers because, look, what really is the infrastructure to support any boxer?
True.
Who wants to turn pro?
True.
How many management units do we have in the country to pick an athlete or to pick a boxer and say that for the next 6 months, I'm going to ensure that in your weight category, you are among perhaps the best on the continent. And then maybe we can start looking out to look into the Latin American region and see how many boxers that we can take on there, to look into Europe, to look into Asia, to look into the Americans and say that this is your style. These are the boxers that we believe you can take on. Within the next 2 years, this is where we think you can go. These are the bouts that will take you to the IBF, IBO. WBC, WBO, to have a clear plan in those weight categories.
They have that scientific analysis you're talking about. No, I think you're getting too scientific for them. That's what it should be.
But you see, these are the conversations we've not been having. That is why 4 years down the line, when we're talking about Ghanaian boxers at the Commonwealth Games, I can close my eyes and mention Suleiman Atete, and mention Wahid Omar, and mention Joseph Kome, and mention all of the guys that we've been taking to these. At the end of the day, our resources are scanty. We need to manage and plan properly so that we're able to touch more lives. Look, there are 1,001 boxers in Bukom. It should not always be Joseph Kome alone. It should not always be Shakur.
Always same old horses. Then we expect different results.
We love Shakur Samer to bits, but he's not the only one who we should be pushing.
Yeah.
We need to think and plan. And look, we're not saying that put your hand into the consolidated fund again. No, we're tired of that. We need to be creative in our revenue generation to be able to fund
the Federation President is supposed to be doing.
In the UK, they have lotteries that fund sports.
Yeah.
Right? And they tie investment or the funding to specific developments.
Goals, yeah.
Right? So if you're an athlete, they're not going to ask you to win 10 races in a year. Yeah. They are giving you marks. They are giving you times. So if you, for example, if you are a high jumper, they will accomplish the Olympics by 1 millimeter.
Yeah.
So the ambition then is going to be jump some 5 or 6 millimeters above that within 2 months or 3 months.
What are the steps you are going to put in
exactly.
to get
so
you to do
and
that?
Your trainer, there is a certain amount available to you. If you're able to clock it, you have access to those funds. If you fail it over a certain consecutive period, those funds are withdrawn. Someone else who is making that run automatically gets into the frame for that.
That's how it should be. And if, for those of you who don't even know, I think Floyd Mayweather is a very good example of what Atu is saying. Most people don't know, but Mayweather was an Olympic boxer.
Yeah.
1996, I believe. And there were just a few lines there. He didn't excel at the Olympics, overwhelmingly.
He didn't explode.
But after that, there was a proper plan for him. And look at him right now.
Yeah.
Look at Floyd Mayweather right now. Let's talk about hockey a little. Boy, I don't know what's going on with the hockey team. I just want them to score one.
India.
Just one.
It's India and it's England.
No, but actually it's crazy because both the men and the women have not scored a single goal. So first of all, the women lost, I believe they lost 5-0.
Yes.
And then they've lost 11 or 11-0. So they considered 17 goals in 2 games. Not scored 16. Yeah. Not scored 1. Men, same. They lost 12 actually to England, I believe.
Charlie, don't mention the score.
Oh boy. 12-0 and then 5-0.
And I'll say it again. It's India, it's England.
But you see,
what are they doing?
But the Theodosia Oko Hockey Stadium is growing fungus. The windows are coming off. The sills are rusting. Like that was a world-class facility that Professor Mills handed over to the nation. But I don't know what's going on with it.
Money in the wrong hands mean nothing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Because if we had a plan for developing, nobody is saying show up and go and beat India or show up and go and beat England.
Yeah.
We are journalists. We follow the progress of the team. We know these athletes. And so we know
they are elite in their categories.
Exactly.
But at least be competitive.
We know where their limitations are. But I can sit here and tell you that because we do not have a strong plan for giving competition. And you see, if you take every discipline, the problems are the same. The analysis is going to be the same on all of them.
Lack of a development plan.
Exactly.
And
we need to approach these things with a certain mindset that, we know there is a gap, there's a gulf in class in terms of the technical ability of the average hockey player trained in England, trained in India, in terms relative to the Ghanaian hockey player. Right? So when you are developing these athletes, you do that with that view in mind.
Okay.
Sports is an art. Art is style. Even boxing, it is defined by styles.
Yeah.
So however good you will be, will always be measured with or by the best in the league. Unless you're going to find geniuses who will develop a unique plan that is going to blow competition out of the water, you have more to gain, and the easier route will be to mimic the best teams in it.
Yeah.
And look at what they do.
I think what you're saying is actually very prudent. I mean, even on football basis, right?
Look at what they do.
You realize that those who knew that they didn't have enough talent will co-op coaches from other countries, build an academy.
At the end of the day, if you take the typical kid from the UK who is into school, he has a decent appreciation of at least 5 or 6 disciplines.
Yep. And from a very young age.
True. And so they polish it.
Yeah. You play some cricket, some hockey.
And perhaps if we get to swimming, that angle will be a bit more profound, because you come to the realization that we've been backing the wrong trees. So a lot of the players, excellent dedication, wonderful work ethic, but the talent to go with is not sufficient. And in such a situation, you can only go so far, because you've left their development so late that they are at a stage where they can only take in so much in terms of new ideas, and there's only so much you can do in terms of developing their talent. A lot of them are at a stage where it will be very difficult for them to... Yes.
Nothing.
Abeku Jackson.
To be honest, if you go past the age of 22, 23, it's hard to teach you anything in sports. It's very hard.
So that is the problem that we're facing. And whenever people want to be hard and say, oh, these guys are not good enough, we're wasting resources, I just tell them, what resources are you talking about?
Which resources are they wasting?
The cost of the flights or the...
Because that's the only time resources even come.
Yeah.
When you have to travel out and stuff, like when you need to go to actual preparatory competitions, there's no funds.
We don't do that. I mean, we've been in this country when our table tennis teams have been fined, they've been suspended because we failed to pay affiliation fees and the likes. And these are supposed to be
the basics of the basics.
In terms of the investment that you're making in this sport. So look, if we're going to present teams, we might as well decide and say that, look, enough of the humiliation, enough of the defeats, because
we like to participate though. I think you know that we like to participate.
I mean, the contingent that we send this time around is 100. That is subject to the 4 athletes who are still in the States getting their visa issues sorted. Now, I hope we'll come to that in the Deborah Akwa and Alexa Mankwa and in the other guys. So we always send a lot of athletes there.
Yeah.
We might as well decide that, you know what, enough of this. Let's put in the work.
Let's talk about those two briefly for me. Deborah Akwa has had a really wonderful year in terms of her school sports, NCAA. She didn't quite cut it at the World Championships, but like you said, she's trying to go through the protocol to get through to the games. Just some thoughts on how you feel about that.
It's a bit of a mess.
Both she and Amankwa, just box that in for me.
It's a bit of a mess because from what we're told, so there is Deborah Akwa, there is Alexa Mankwa, there is Ho Halutier, there is Latifa Ali. As of Friday evening, they did not have their visas. Alexa Mankwa, his process had been completed, and he was expected to fly out to the UK. So I'm sure by now,
he should be on his way out there.
If he's not there already. For Ho Halutier and then Latifa Ali, also they had also been denied visas, and they were still working on those. I mean, Saturday, Sunday were weekends. So you do expect that unless, of course, a special dispensation was offered or was issued, they will not be able to make it over the weekend, and they would have to hope that those issues will be resolved today. Deborah's case was, she sent the application to the wrong consulate. So that had to be rectified and then be sent.
You see, these things are problematic for me, because I always say that shouldn't the federations be supervising these things? These are not things that athletes should be handling on their own,
which is true. But unfortunately, that's what happened. So we're hoping that will be resolved. And she stands a decent chance of doing well, because if you go through the World Athletics, the first 3 medal winners, so you had the Australian, she obviously being from a Commonwealth country is going to be there. Elena Patterson, she won gold, followed by Yaroslava, the Ukrainian. She won bronze, and she won silver, and then the bronze went to the Italian, I think, Elona Valotilara. I think that's her name. The Italian, she won the bronze medal at the Games. So you have 3 out of the top 4 places not present at the Games.
So this is a big opening for her.
Exactly, there's a big opening for her. And so I feel if she eventually gets there, which I hope gets rectified, gets there, she stands a really good chance of finishing in a strong place. And who knows, this could be the launch pad for her to move on to greater things, because
she's looking to be on that launch pad. She says that after this, if she doesn't see any positive signs coming, she's going 9 to 5.
And
she's already made that statement. She says this is her last year in school.
Exactly, and she's good. So we need to appreciate the situation that she's in. And for all of our sakes, I do hope that she is able to excel in this game. And look, nobody should look at this with the view that she's ungrateful and this is her life.
Yeah.
It's make or break for her.
Yep.
She's either getting a career in athletics or she's focusing on her education to continue. There are those who can combine books and then the tracks. She's done that for 4 years?
Yes, yeah.
There are those who can combine a 9 to 5 with a career on the tracks. She has done the assessment and realized that
it's not possible.
All of the roadblocks, the logistical deficiencies that come with it. And you see, she struggled to the point that interview was in March when she said that if she does not get any support and if things do not change significantly, she is not going to compete beyond July. I think she gave herself a grace period just because the World Athletics and then the Commonwealth Games were around this time of the year. It's up to us to what to do with that information. And when I say us, I mean the various administrators in the country, because I have absolutely no power. Journalists do not have power, the power to change things in terms of how we run sports and the sort of support system we have in place for if we can get something as basic as a visa application rights for our athletes. I mean,
it's atrocious.
And you see, when she is in this position, there are a lot of the things that journalists cannot speak to publicly.
Yeah.
There are a lot of the things that she cannot speak to publicly, because at the end of the day, such information does more
damage to it than good, yeah.
More damage to the brand Ghana, to the brand Ghana Athletics than it does. And we're all interested in fixing what we identify to be the roadblocks in there. So people need to understand and respect the decision. The least you can do is to support her and hope that she comes home with something positive.
Well, let's take a brief break here on the tracker. When we come back, I'll give you an idea of which Ghanaian players have been moving to which clubs this transfer window. A few interesting names in the mix, so do stay with us here on the tracker. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the tracker here on Citi TV. We're on the final leg of the show. Let's do some player transfers now, and let's see who's been moving where. Let's start off from North-Zealand. North-Zealand has become like a factory for moving players. So that's where we start off from. 20-year-old centre-back from Nima. If you are a native of Nima, you know him probably well. You'd have seen him grow up. Maxwell Woleji is the name. A product of the Right to Dream Academy. He has moved on from North-Zealand in Denmark to Vitória Guimarães in the Portuguese First Division. So there he is. He's a centre-back. Can play with both feet, left foot, right foot. Doesn't really matter. But to just snap thoughts on Maxwell, for those people who don't know who this guy is, never seen him play, what kind of player is he and how much potential does he have?
I think he has a lot of potential. Obviously, the football factory, if you like, that is producing him has got the credibility of producing players who can think on their feet. Good. Beyond the natural ability. And in today's market, that's an asset. It adds a few hundreds of thousands to your value. And in the elite ranks, we're talking a few million euros or pounds here, that it adds to your value. And so you do expect that in the next few years, if it's apprenticeship, and that's what I expect this to be.
Yeah,
I don't expect him to play as if he's someone who had his education in Europe. I think the cultural differences will take time. The weather, the football culture there itself, the city that he's moving into, and he's 20.
Yeah.
So he needs to adapt first to the weather, to the food.
He has Abdul Mumin by his side.
Exactly.
That's the good part.
That's the good part. But he needs to figure out the sort of personality he is going to be for the next leg of his life. Yeah. Because
that's very important,
yes,
actually, as a footballer.
Today's game demands so much from the footballer than the game a few years ago. So in terms of his personality, in terms of what he wants to do on the football pitch, he has to figure it out. Because the reality is that football, in terms of coaches, has a very high turnover. So you are going to possibly, in the next 3 years, have to work with minimum 3 coaches. If your club has a habit of changing managers, that is a lot of ideas to take in, a lot of football concepts that you'll be introduced to at the age of 20. So you need to quickly figure out what you want to be, before you become someone's experiment. And the thing about a young player
that's very true.
Exactly.
Before you know, the guy who brought you in, who loved you and knew what you wanted to do, has maybe fired. Exactly. Now they bring in a new guy and he doesn't know what to do with you.
And this is important because depending on how your development goes, a certain market will be in the lookout for you. For example, today we're always talking about how left-footed centre-backs have become unicorns.
Yep.
They command more because there are less of them in the system now. If you develop quickly as a left-footed centre-back, the potential that you have opportunities is high because there are not a lot of them anywhere in the world to start with. And so I'm just hoping that he figures himself out quickly and dedicates a lot more time to growing his game on an individual basis. This is independent of what the team and what the club wants to do, right? Because there could be instability. The manager that hired him could get fired.
Yeah.
The technical director that hired him could get fired. And so you need to quickly accelerate your own development, spend extra hours
Make yourself
in training.
more viable for the market overall.
Exactly. But I have no doubt in my mind that the environment that he's walking into is one that has become sort of a natural habitat for Ghanaian players. I mean, right from David Nia these days, we've come to know that, and a lot of them are defenders.
Yep. In fact, most of them are defenders.
A lot of them are defenders who walk in there, and they are either left-sided centre-backs or left-footed to play.
Gideon Mensah was there as well.
Gideon Mensah was there. David Daddy was there.
Yeah.
Abdul Mumin and all of them. And so they are gaining a reputation of creating an enabling environment for our talents to thrive. We thank them for taking our young talents and then moving them to the next level. But it is important to me that he quickly figure out what he wants to be, quickly develop that talent.
Yeah.
Because the thing about our players is that a lot of them are multi-talented. So your average Ghanaian defender can pass the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe not a line breaker, maybe not start an attack, but they can make decent passes into midfield.
Try and specialize in a few other areas.
So there is that tendency for a team to say, a coach to say, because my defenders can move the ball around very well, if I'm going to play with a 3-back, he's the guy that I want to use. Or if I need someone to play in midfield, he's the guy that I want to use. And those ideas, because they are voluminous and very frequent, they can confuse a player. So it's the one thing that I always think of when we're sending out some of these young players.
Let's move on from Maxwell Wileji. Osman Bukari has moved as well, but we've spoken about Osman extensively on the show. He's moved to Red Star Belgrade, and the word is that he scored twice already. Yeah, that's him in your shot there. Osman Bukari joining Red Star Belgrade. He's been on target twice already in 4 or 5 matches, already getting his feet wet out there. Let's move it on. Let's talk about somebody who has become a little forgotten. Kasim Nuhu Adams. Kasim Nuhu Adams. He's made a move from Hoffenheim to FC Basel. Now, if you remember Kasim Nuhu Adams, he made his name playing in the Swiss league, playing for young boys, actually. He's literally been warming the Hoffenheim bench for how long, only God knows. He's decided that he can't do that anymore, and so he's moved it on back to a comfort zone for him, a place where he was actually one of the biggest players in the league at the time. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you don't commit this move. Is this a good move for Kasim?
Oh, I do. I do. Every day of the weekend, twice on Sundays. Look, there was a time, I remember when he made his Black Stars debut.
Yeah.
Was it the AFCON in 2019? Yeah, he made his debut.
He looked like he was going to be our most important defender.
There was a report of Bayern keeping tabs on him. Bayern Munich.
Yeah. No, Kasim was huge. He can come out of the ball with defense.
Exactly.
He can head.
I don't know what went wrong, but I think at a point he suffered a confidence crisis because the last games in the Black Stars completely looked different, and you could tell there was something off about him.
Yeah.
And so my reading of that quickly informed me not to assess him based on what he was doing on the pitch, but whatever the issues were that were producing the new Kasim Nuhu that we were seeing. And so I'm glad that he's ended that rotten run. He's moved away from that decay.
Yeah.
There's a good chance for him to restart. And look, not everyone is going to make it out there in the big leagues. Sometimes, and the Swiss league is a respectable one.
Yeah, very.
Sometimes all a player needs is that credibility.
A stable environment.
In a stable environment, just to grow and then keep growing in that space. However small others may perceive it to be. Because look, at the end of the day, there will always be a market for players, irrespective of their skill set.
And pretty tall defender, 6'4", very mobile, can pass.
And look, for me, there's too much talent in him for him to be wasting on the bench anywhere in the world. So I'm glad that he's made this move.
Yeah.
His ilk are unique, even in today's modern game. Just as he said, he's someone who can pick a pass out. His anticipation is great.
Yeah.
His defensive skills are excellent.
Yeah.
And he's a natural defender.
Just needs to focus.
He's a natural defender.
Let's move it and talk. I want to talk about 2 more people, but we need to box it into small time. Benjamin Tete to Hull City.
Made for the English game.
Made for the English game.
He has the size.
Big belly guy.
He has the size. He has the awareness. And he has the mindset for it as well. He only needs to... I didn't like what I saw at the AFCON. I hope there's no more of that in Benjamin Tete.
You mean the punch
that
out?
incident, yes. So I think...
I think that was an anomaly. He's typically a very calm guy.
So we need to see more of him, the footballer, and irrespective
and not him, the boxer.
Exactly. And irrespective of what we say about players who can bring teammates into play and all of that, he needs to be also respected to be someone who can score goals.
True. It's your first bit of respect as a striker. You need to earn it.
And that's the currency you trade with.
Last. Talk to me about Mudassiru Salifu to Sheriff Tiraspol.
The Ghana football streets will never forget him. He's one talent that I always loved. He's one talent that I always said we needed to see him move on to pastures anew because there was too much talent in there and too little education going on here. So we basically were stifling him. Look, he can pick the ball and run with it. He's
supposed to be a DM.
But he can progress play on his own.
His dribbling is fantastic.
It's fantastic. And already the clips that we've seen of him playing for Tiraspol are remarkable.
Yeah.
I just want him to flourish. I think that in the last 12 months, the key to he getting here is that he's cut out some of the dribbles. Yeah. He releases the ball a bit more often.
Decision making is more on points now.
It's more on points now. But the talent has never been in doubt. And I'm glad that he's made a move. I hope it works out. It's a loan deal with the option of a renewal. I hope it works out at the point where even if they don't want to take him, another team out there, because he doesn't need to come back. Yeah. And I think no one can question the quality that he's got. Look, he's got the skill sets to play even in the top European leagues.
He does.
The only difference is the culture that he's not been exposed to. If the assimilation goes right, I have no doubts that Mudassiru will make all of us proud.
Actually, thank you very much. I remember when I saw Mudassiru, was that game against Accra Hearts of Oak. He played about 17 or so minutes, and the impression he left on me is still the impression I have of him. So I wish him all the best out there. I'm sure he's out there with Edmond Ado and a few of the Ghanaian boys. There are like 5 Ghanaians at Sheriff Tiraspol now. Hopefully we can dissect that another time. But big thanks to Achuta Maklo for joining us to help us dissect everything. The tracker obviously will be back on your screen same time next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of Citi TV.